how Hashem does things. Moshe Rabbeinu is raised in the palace of Pharaoh. He's a Jew. He's the enemy of Pharaoh, but he's raised there. And he knows how things work in a palace, how government works. And of course, in his 20s, he had to leave Egypt. He has to go for 60 years. Torah doesn't tell us where he was. But we know through other sources that he was a man that was able to control things, enhance things, and make himself someone, and come back to Egypt and save Bnei Israel. At the very beginning of Torah, Pasuk says, Zeh Sefer Toldot Adam. This is the book of a man. Our sages tell us that Hashem looked at the future and he handpicked individuals to place them in a very important time and place. Every era, every community, every time, we need a special individual to be able to impact the world, the community today. I believe Larry was one of those. When I think about him and what the little that I know about him, at time when I spoke to him, he came to America when he was a young kid, studied here for a few years, went back to Iran, then afterwards came back here. But one of the important things that made him special was that he had his youth here in America. He learned the language very well. He learned the American society very well. He went through schooling here. He had a beautiful handwriting. He was capable of writing poems in English. Perfect. Beautiful. He wrote many poems that I know. Unbelievable. I think it was important, and Hashem knew that our community, when it comes to America, they need someone to be able to be influenced. Someone, Baruch Hashem, well-to-do in business, very smart, very knowledgeable in all areas, and be able to make a turn. And with that, be able to impact the youth, the new generation, and would be a good example for many. What he was able to do, what he was to accomplish, what he stood for. His resilience and his strength is unbelievable, admirable and unmatched. We find in the Torah, when Yaakov decides finally to take the Gezerah that was that Am Yisrael had to go to Egypt, but he had to prepare, study hard. He sends Yehuda. Our sages question, why Yehuda? You need someone full of strength to be able to establish, and we need someone that could make a change and be strong enough that when it's necessary to say this is wrong, this is how we're going to do things. I think his name, Yehuda, matches his personality and his mission in life. He was able to do that. Another important thing about Lawrence was that he was able to do things b'ne'imut, with pleasance. He was a deep thinker. Many times, just being there, being an example, that itself makes a great demonstration what's right, what to do. And I think he knew and he understood how to do it. And we were blessed that in our time, Hashem chose him, such a holy neshama, from a very distinguished family from both sides, to be able to do that. So the Pasuk says, Vayelech ish mi bet Levi, vayikach et bat Levi, and that was the outcome of this neshama kedusha. Something very important we learned a few days ago in the cycle of the Fyomi, just last week, a few days ago. And means someone that questions the religion and asks questions and wants to show that thing's wrong. Comes to Rabbi and he says, how can we find the way Hashem deals with the prophets is belittling them, putting them down. Tells Echazkel, lie down on your left, lie down on your right, do this. And why? A prophet like Echazkel has to do things like that, has to suffer like that. So he gave an example like this. When things go wrong in a country, a king punishes everybody. And if it's somewhat nice, maybe half of the country. If it's more, just only a group. But if it's someone who's really, really great, just takes the people who are in charge. And by punishing them, he accomplished what he needs to. And it says here, Hashem was Melech, Rahman, and Maleh Rachamim. He takes a few individuals, and with that, he atones on the many, many more. Community, perhaps the world at large. The Gemara in Baruch tells us that at Hashem Ye'ehav Yochiach Uchben Chavet Ben Nirtzah. That when Hashem loves somebody, sends him Yisurim. But there's one condition. If he has to agree, he has to want it. The Gemara brings down there are certain individuals that couldn't handle it. Rabbi Lazar says, I don't want it, I don't want the reward, I don't want to be part of it. But there are individuals who handle that and could handle it. Rabbi Lazar Rabbi Shimon, the Gemara tells us, he asked for it. And his wife, when he found out, left it. So I can't handle it. I thought that accidentally or for some other reason coming, but I didn't know that you are asking for it. So he left it. But he was able to handle everything alone, and then she came back. I am not sure, but I'm not surprised. If Lawrence had that strength to ask for it. And not to be able to not to complain at all, takes a lot of strength. Sefarim HaKadoshim write that when a person is able to shut his mouth, control his mouth, he merits to a certain light, to a certain vision that many don't. Sometimes we may think that it happened because of certain illness. But I think Larry used it correctly. We don't even know when his eyes was closed, his mind where it was, how far reaching it was, as he had learned much. We don't know how much he learned. Just to give you one example, the Gemara brings down another story that there were mute people, and every day they used to come to study hall. People didn't know how much could they already learn. At one point they prayed for him, and he was able to speak, and they found out how much he knew. We wonder how much Larry learned, how much he knew, how much secrets of the Torah he knew. What he learned, he practiced, and he applied. The Gemara tells us a few stories. I'm just going to quickly tell you that some of the great rabbis who accepted Yisrael upon themselves, how much they atoned for the world. Another important thing, Gemara says, that someone was able to bring close others, and especially youth, to Torah, how strong he is, and how many gezerot he could cancel. And through his magazine that he wrote and made people interest to learn it, and together with some other things, he put in Divrei Torah. And I'm 100% sure that he affected many lives and affected many to come closer and to start loving Torah. A person like that could cancel any gezerah. Kafiti. I'll tell you a quote to you, another Gemara. Amar Rav Zera. Rav Zera speaks about that one of the great Amoraim earlier came to his dream, Rabbi Yosef Rav Hanina. And he asked him, tell me what's going on in the next world. Recently, they had lost Rabbi Chia. The master of Rabbi Chia was so holy that Rabbi Nasi admired him, how great he was. And people couldn't even look at his chariot when he was departing the world. How holy he was. So he says, tell me, who's next to him or what's going on? Who's next to each other in next world? And gives him a whole list of people. Then he says, what about Rabbi Yochanan? He said, no, he can't go there. Why? Those people are full of fire. He cannot be near them. So he's a little bit further down. One small thing that speaks about how great he was, I was zocher to be buried in Eretz Israel, and where? To the chalka of the great Rabbanim. These are not accidents, no coincidence. Speaks about how good he was, how big he was. I think we have a great advocate in Shammai. If we just could learn from his strength, that even when things are difficult and hard, and still go to Shoub, still learn, still come and still be interested. Once we have that legacy, carries legacy, then he's going to be a greater advocate for all of us in Shammai and for the world. That what he impacted the world with is not lost, it still continues. And then we get the benefit of his zechut and our dearies in Shammai, and whatever wishes that we have, and whatever gezerah is in the world, I'm sure definitely was compromised and will be compromised more, and possibly canceled many of them. I'm not trying to exaggerate.